Hey there, positivity seekers. Welcome to another episode of Incurable Positivity, the podcast where we explore practical ways to shift your thoughts from negative to positive.
I'm April Sabral, and with me is the incredible Angie Costa. Together, we co-authored the award-winning book, Incurable Positivity. And we're here to bring those pages to life in this uplifting podcast.
Absolutely, April. Our mission is simple: to help you think and feel better. Life throws challenges our way, but it's how we respond that makes all the difference. Today, we've got some tactical tips to share with you that can truly transform your mindset.
For more positivity, head to www.incurablepositivity.com. Stay positive, stay inspired. This is Incurable Positivity.
And talking about how to transform your life one thought at a time. Because, Angie, I don't know about you, but I have truly had to dig deep over the weekend.
Yeah, I've heard you say that a couple of times. I mean, obviously, I want everything in your life to go perfectly all the time, but that's not realistic.
No.
But what's so great about it is that it doesn't matter where you are on the continuum. You can utilize these practices, and they're real. Like, we are practicing what we preach. This is not some philosophy that we're spouting. This is every day. It's real life. It's work. It's family. It's relationships. And so it's kind of cool when you and I have to pull out our positive mindset practices and actually put them into effect.
I mean, I just learn all the time that the more that you exercise that muscle, the more that you integrate like daily practices into your life, the easier it is to deal with the challenges that hit you, right? Like 100%. I mean, it's easy when everything's going well, but when things aren't going well, that's when it really, really matters. And that's when these, I like to call them positive practices, really, because they are practices. And I like to say that I'm, a practitioner of positivity because I'm just practicing it all the time, and I don't get it perfect. But I do think that the discipline and the self-awareness piece is huge, and not going into reactionary. And there's a tool that we're going to talk about specifically today on that, that we've been practicing lately that we could really talk. I said, what do you want to talk about today? She's like, well, let's talk about the flywheel. But anyway, we'll talk about that for an hour. But yeah, what's going on in your world? What's happening?
I thought about it yesterday. I think I mentioned it to you once yesterday, and all the many, things that we did. But I am so thrilled to be on this journey, on the positivity journey, partially because of where I was prior to meeting you and learning all of these amazing skills, but also because of the real life, like day-to-day impact that positivity is having on my life. And yesterday, it's so amazing. Like, I can't even remember what the problem was, what the issue was. I went right into positivity mode, like into my practices of, the 3 R's, which, if you've been hanging around here, that's release, reach, and reframe. I went so quickly into that mode that I immediately dealt with the issue and it was gone. And I couldn't even remember what it was that was agitating me at that moment. And it's like, positivity powers activate, that's
I feel like there's a cape coming. I feel like there's a cape coming with positivity power on that. I just saw you flying through the sky with it on, spreading your positivity everywhere. I love it.
One of our clients actually has been talking about doing a positivity book for children, because imagine how different your life would be today if you knew some of these practices and skills as a child or as a teenager. And so she's been teasing me about putting that book together. We've been talking about it quite a bit, and I might light a fire under her, because I think that really is so very necessary to make sure our kids know that, they are not at the whim of every stimulus that comes their way. They can actually decide to be positive. They can decide their reactions, their responses, It's just a great skill to teach as early as possible.
Yeah, you know what? You're making me think about this weekend. So I was hanging out with some friends this weekend, and one of the people that were there, he's, in his mid-30s, hasn't had kids yet, and literally asked me this question: what have you learned from raising children and being a parent? I was like, oh Lord, like, how long do you have? Like, he's like, what have you learned about yourself? And I had to really kind of take a pause. I took an Angie pause, and I was like, okay, how do I answer this in a way that's going to be meaningful, add value to him as a parent? Because I'm always thinking about that, right? I'm always thinking about like how to be the type of energy where I show up in a room and I add value to the lives and spaces around me, right? Like, that's the last quote in the first book, and I really truly mean that. So I'm always very conscious about that. So, and I was like, the one thing I can tell you that I know now that I didn't learn then, like probably when my kids were a lot younger, is the power of programming and the power of what you're ingesting around you and how that shapes your thoughts, how it shapes your beliefs, right? So this idea of like, you have your children and they're running around the house or whatever, and you have like the radio on in the background that's just doom and gloom and news, and it's just running all the time, and it's just programming negative news into your psyche. Or you're having a conversation with somebody and complaining about your mother-in-law or your relationship, and you're having this conversation and you're having it, and your children are sitting there, and it's literally like programming them because they're just ingesting everything, because people always remember how you made them feel, not necessarily what you said. So those words, though, do transfer into feelings, which transfer into a thought that get embedded into our subconscious, that then transfer into a limiting belief. And I was like, that's a big, long answer, but I kind of feel I want to talk about this because right now in the work that we're doing, we're unplugging all those, like unpicking all those limiting beliefs. And it's like an artichoke. I say life isn't like an onion. People used to say, oh, it's like an onion, you peel it. I'm like, nah, it's kind of like an artichoke. It's a bit thicker. You got to really drag those layers back and really chop them off. And so I shared that with him. I said, in the hopes that, when you do become a parent, you really think about what they're listening to, what you're programming them in. Because if we could all go back in time and realize that programming was given to us and it's what stops us, and sometimes we don't even realize it's stopping us, Angie. We can't even figure that out. We just aren't experiencing in our life what we want, right? We have desires, we have these goals, but we seem to tolerate a lot for some reason. Like, we're not breaking through. And that's where self-development, personal growth, you sign up for all these courses and you're still like, God damn it, like I'm still not achieving the goals, whatever that is. And it's literally because of your limiting beliefs.
For sure. I love that. Life is like an artichoke. It can be a little spiky sometimes. You're so right. And I don't know how everyone on the line this morning will feel about what I'm about to say. And April, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. But, I opened my computer, getting ready to work on a client's book. And, the browser immediately popped up. 4 fishermen sailing off the coast of Nova Scotia went out to fish and never came back. And I thought immediately, like, heartbroken and, prayerful that, that they're found alive. But the next line really said something to me. The next line was, to stay abreast of the play-by-play, click here for hour-by-hour coverage of these 4 fishermen. And I thought to myself, what is the purpose of that? What is the other than, the news cycle wanting to remain relevant and, continue to pump out such really awful news? Why would I need an hour-by-hour update on such a sad and tragic story? And many of us, of course, would click on it. I mean, I remember when the guys went down in the submersible, and it was minute by minute, forget hour by hour, and it really sort of took over people's day and week. And, it was in all of their thoughts. And I thought to myself, what a great opportunity to pray for someone, to hope for their recovery, but then to let go and not feel that you need to continually consume hour by hour and such a tragic negative news story. And I don't know, there's a kind of programming that's taking place in social media that does keep us tethered to negativity all day long, and it's hard to remain in a positive mindset when you function that way.
Yeah, my thoughts on that would be, wouldn't it be like eye-opening if it said, click here to gather and pray for these
Yes.
fishermen, right? Like,
Right.
why do we as a society, why do we go down that rabbit hole and want to, observe and participate when things are going wrong, And so that's the work that you have to be conscientious of, you have to be aware of. I think it's a very deep topic. That's what I would like to see. And that's what I see now. It's like when things are going wrong around me or things are happening, I literally try and stop and think, what would happen if we, as a group, just became more mindful and actually put our positive thoughts on it? Because our thoughts, I do believe, create our reality. I mean, I've had it showing up constantly in the last week, literally, where I've been like standing in a store saying money mantras to myself, and all of a sudden the woman in front of me that I'm paying for something is like, oh, there's a coupon on that and you can get it for half off. And I'm like, really? Oh, you have points in this and you can get like additional discounts. And I was like, okay, well, that showed up fast, right? So this idea of just practicing your thoughts and practicing where you're directing your thoughts, because if we're all connected, which I truly believe, Angie, we are, the way that we heal each other, the way that we heal the planet, the way that we heal businesses is to show up and be that light, be that positive person. And it's not always easy, but try and be mindful of it. I just know that from leading teams of people and having that positive energy, and how, when you show up in a way where people feel valued, heard and seen and recognized and lifted, as opposed to berated, you see the whole organization shift. So that's just one example, a demonstration of when people come together and start to think positively. But yeah, that's just sad. But it is the world we live in. So it's about protecting your thoughts, right? Protecting your environment and being conscientious and being aware and having practices. Because I wanted to ask you this though. If this was like 10 years ago and you didn't have these positivity practices in place, what would the last 24 hours have looked like and felt like for you?
Oh, I remember it so very well. I mean, I just remember, I think I told you last night that my life was like a ping pong in a wind tunnel. I mean, I just felt tossed around by everything that came at me. If a client canceled, or if there was a dispute among colleagues, or if there was a family disturbance, or God forbid, some sort of tragedy, somebody passed away, everything in the world, it seemed, was more in control of me than I was in control of me. And so, the first thing that happens is the emotional spiral. You just start diving down, down, down. You worry, you fret, and then you start sharing that, because, of course, when you're feeling miserable, the first thing most people want to do is share that misery with somebody else, right? We want to enroll other people in our misery. And I was good for that. If something terrible happened, I'd call a friend and dump it all on her, and then hang up with her and call another friend and dump it on him. And, wow, it just, now that I look back, what a lack of knowledge and understanding I had at that time. Today, I want to share great things. I want to see whose life I can impact, who I can help, who I can support, and I would certainly never, ever, ever get myself caught in any kind of negativity spiral. I do not watch the news. I don't feel the news today has the value that it had years ago, where major things going on in the world were being shared with us because they were important things, topics we needed to, vote on, or, public policy issues, and, and things that we could really do to help someone. A neighbor had a fire, everyone gather up clothes and food and money and go over and help, right? But these days, it's so easy to get locked in to a negative cycle. And so I avoid that at all costs. And I get right back to my positivity practices so I can be productive and helpful in the world.
So one of the practices that I had to really think about this weekend, right? Because I love talking about positivity practices, things that you all can take away into your week, into your daily interactions, was I was having go back to the beginning of this when I said I had to dig deep this weekend, right? I was having a challenging experience with a family member. And in the past, I think, like you just shared, we just want to regurgitate and tell every person like what's going on. So I've given myself this practice now of literally talking to one person about it so that I can get it off my chest, and it's literally going to be like 17 seconds, right? So that's it. And so this week I was like, okay, let me practice this because I had some stuff going on. And also when somebody else asked me like, how was your day? I literally responded with, well, you know, it's been a bit unbalanced. I've had an balancing day today in my positivity. But you know what? It's all good. I went and I decided to go and do some meditation for a couple hours to just get my balance back, right? As opposed to, I could have made the choice, Angie, to just regurgitate the whole story of what was going on. And what I really appreciate about this person is when I said to them, well, how's your weekend going? They said, well, you know, I don't really want to say the stuff that's been going on out loud again and again because I feel like I'm just going to recreate it. And I was like, fantastic. Okay, so what should we focus on? So then we had a conversation about like this week, what's going on. And it felt good, but I'm not going to lie, it did feel a little bit uncomfortable because it was really digging deep and practicing that. However, what I did do before I had that conversation, because releasing is a huge part of letting go of angst, negativity, frustration, disappointment, whatever those negative feelings are, I practiced the flywheel. And so this flywheel, honestly, I mean, I know we created it, I know we've been using it for 6 months, but this flywheel activity for me, I just keep using it more and more. And the more that I use it, it just is allowing me to release those limiting beliefs and actually uncover them. And it's interesting because when I start to use it on a daily basis, I literally can uncover things that have been holding me back for years. Like I can see it in my life. I can literally see the results in my life. And so I want to talk about the flywheel because we started practicing it, I don't know, 6 months ago together, because we always practice everything before we actually roll it out and like start teaching it. Because I'm like, we're a student of our own practices, right? We want to make sure that this stuff works. We're not just throwing stuff at the wall. We really want to make an impact. But this idea of the flywheel this weekend was super powerful. So can you explain a bit more about the flywheel? Because I know you've been using it and how it's impacted you.
I sure can. It's one of my favorite things. So the purpose of the flywheel is to answer the question, what's not working in my life? And more particularly, why am I continuing to do the things that aren't working? There's some sort of programming that's causing me to continually date the wrong person, continually empty out my bank account and have nothing in savings, continually have conflicts with coworkers, continually miss opportunities to advance in my career, whatever it is. Something is not working. And so the flywheel has a big center, a big circle in the center, and it allows you to write in that center what's not working. But then it has little spikes that go out from the center like spider's legs. And it allows you to start going deeper into, why am I suffering from this particular limiting belief? Where is this coming from? Because I believe that we operate on the surface very, very often, and probably most of our day, we're on the surface with people. We're not talking about real deep feelings, emotions, our past programming, traumas, anything. We're not talking about that stuff all day. So what it does is it allows you to go a level deeper, and then a level deeper, and then a level deeper, and get to that place deep, deep down. And, you know, I call it the abyss, right? The primordial ooze. And touch that stuff that's down there and lift it to the surface, because that program is sitting, beneath everything that you are and everything that you do, and it's never seen the light of day, right? Because it's happened a long time ago, or it's been working its way deep down into your psyche for years. It allows you to lift that thing from the abyss and bring it to the light and examine it, and then address it. And that is a great thing, because a lot of people, I think you asked me yesterday why more people don't meditate. And I think more people don't meditate because it's uncomfortable. It takes you to a place that you've not been inside yourself. I mean, that's freaky. And so what's great about the flywheel is that it's a process that allows you to go into that deep place, but then emerge from that deep place and actually have an action plan for how you're going to move forward and how you're going to release this negative program.
Yeah, I love it. It's such a good practice. It's so funny that you brought up meditation. We were talking earlier before we got on the live, and I was like, whenever I used to go into meditation, my team would be like, oh no, she's gone into meditation again. She's going to come out with some stuff, because that's where I connect with.
She's going to change everything about the company. Don't let her meditate.
Don't let her go into meditation. That's a whole hour conversation. But the flywheel. So yesterday when I was journaling, because I'd had an unbalancing moment, right? Over the weekend, I'm going to say unbalancing, not stress, not, whatever. I'm going to say unbalancing. That's my new term for like a stressful situation with a family member. And in the middle of that circle, it was literally the question was, what do I believe about creating the life I desire? I had done some other journaling, and then I literally wrote out like, some of the answers were like, I don't know how, right? If I want to create a life that I desire, but I don't know how, that's a thought that's keeping me stuck subconsciously. Another thought that came is like, which I'm not confident I can't achieve. I'm not confident that I can achieve my goals. That's a thought that's literally coming out of me. I'm like, how's that even there? But it's true, because I'm learning new skills as an entrepreneur. I'm learning new skills to reach out and do lead generation. So there's all these components in my business that could be holding me back from actually getting the result that I want. What else? I'm not sure what to do next. That's a thought that came out. I was like, interesting. So there's, you ask this question, what's not working? And then what do I believe about it? Because what's not working for me is like, have I really created the life that I desire? And that's a big question, but it could be, Angie, could be anything. It could be like, what's not working in my relationship? What's not working in my team right now, right? That the first question, just what's not working. And then what do I believe about this situation is the next question. And what do I believe about this situation really gets you just to pull out those thoughts and write them down. And then the second step that I started practicing yesterday is creating another flywheel and literally say, what am I choosing to believe about this situation? So what am I choosing to believe? And then it just shifts. It shifts the thoughts. And I'm choosing to believe that I am capable. I'm choosing to believe that I am ready to embrace my true potential. I'm choosing to believe that I can learn anything. I'm choosing to believe that the right people show up at the right time and find me easily. So there's this, I could go on and on. I had like 50 limiting beliefs, and then I think I had like 80 beliefs that I'm choosing to believe. And
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and the big one, because I always say anchor it in a reframing statement, because when you put positive emotion behind it, that's when you can start to move it, was I feel really good trusting my abilities to create the life I desire. And I literally was walking around all day saying that yesterday. And I was like, woohoo, skipping around saying it. And then yesterday, guess what happens? Client books an appointment, right? Like, had a good conversation with my son, like got a new place to move into, like all these good things started happening. And I think, it's just being aware and like having the practices, because previously to doing this work, I think I would have just gone through the day kind of tolerating my thoughts. I think we create what we tolerate, and I think we're not even aware of what we're tolerating. It's just like when you have that moment and somebody says to you, how's it going? You go, I'm fine. yeah, it's fine. I'm like, examine that, because that I'm fine, you should be like, I'm amazing. Life is fantastic. Everything's good. And it's not going to be all the time, trust me. But if you can pay attention and be aware, then you can start to really think about where you're tolerating things in your life, and then maybe write out some new standards. I don't know, write out some new standards instead of tolerating what you're tolerating. My new standards for this is, and journal it out. We all go to work, we have job expectations, we have an expectation of how we show up every day. Why don't we give ourselves some new standards and some new expectations on how we live our life every day? Just a thought.
That's so good. That's so good. And if you all want us to post like a sample flywheel, we're happy to do that and share that with you, or you can jump on incurablepositivity.com and learn some more about it. But I will tell you that the first time I did it, and I don't know if everyone's experience will be the same, but I can't imagine that this is not consistent across, all genders, all backgrounds. The first time I did it, it was an incredibly emotional experience. And you got to hear this from me. I am like not an emotional person. I sort of pride myself on that. My teenagers often joke that I lost my tear ducts in World War One. I wasn't even alive in World War One, but that's the running joke in our family. Like you very rarely see me get emotional, but it was, jarring to finally answer the question of why. Why does this thing plague me? Why am I constantly dealing with this at this age and at this stage of my life? And so the first time for me was super emotional. It gets easier now doing the flywheel because I know what's going to happen. I know I'm going like to that place, right? And so I get there and I deal with whatever comes up for me. But the first time was really earth shattering because I finally had answers that for years I have been seeking and like spending money, trying this, trying that. And so for me, it was a very powerful experience. And I hope that for everyone else, whether it brings you to that place of emotion or not, I hope and trust and truly believe that if you practice this flywheel, those things that you feel you can't seem to shake, they're going to lose their footing because you're going to unearth them in a way that you probably never have before.
Yeah. And, it just comes back to, again, like I honestly, as a coach, right, I help a lot of people and teach leadership skills and positive leaderships and coaching. And there's so many things that we do as coaches, but I truly believe you are your best coach. I think that I would love everybody to realize that they have all the answers inside of themselves. And yes, it's good to get a coach. It's good to get that partner in thinking through. But, you can only talk to a coach, like once a week, once a month maybe. And so how do you deal with things in between? I see that with a lot of my clients. I'm like, how do you deal with things in between? You are your best coach. Be confident, right? And know that you are your best coach. I have spent, I can't even tell you, Angie, thousands of dollars on personal development, professional development. I have been in the room, okay, with the founder of Mind Valley, with Brendan Burchard, with Ed Milet, with all the top thought leaders. And I can tell you, it's wonderful and it's great. And there is something about coming together and having a group of people like-minded. You need that community. We all need that community. But when you're sitting in your house at night by yourself, this is what matters. This is how you're creating your life because you're the one constant and consistency in your life. You can get in a group of people. I see it when I go to teach workshops. I love it. We get in the room, but it's what happens next. It's what happens when people go home. It's what happens when you go home and you're sitting by yourself. And how are you going to consistently practice it? You are your best coach. So I want all of you listening to this to know that and have the confidence in that you are your best coach. You have the answers. You just have to put the practices in place and exercise this mental muscle, just like you do going to the gym, just like you do eating food, just like you do with anything that you're trying to master. Your business, your skills, your whatever that is, people management skills. It's practice, right? It's practice.
Yeah. I so love that, April. I call it the Dorothy effect. right? If you like The Wizard of Oz, you know that at the end of the story, the good witch Glinda says to Dorothy, you've been able to go home all along. Like, you've had the shoes on your feet since the beginning. All you had to do was click your heels, right? So you've had the power all along. And I love that you said that, because I've been in these conferences where I've taken pages and pages of notes and, had all these grand intentions. And I find the notes 2 years later, 3 years later, in the back of a drawer or in the bottom of my briefcase or something, and I haven't looked at it because taking notes is not enough. Learning the principles is not enough. It's the action. It's the constant daily practice that integrates those philosophies and principles into your life in a meaningful way so that they actually help you get to the place you want to get to.
Yeah, and grab yourself a positivity partner. I mean, I would challenge everybody in this room or listening to say, find somebody that you can practice positivity with. And literally, like that conversation that I shared with you about, I've had an unbalanced day, and that person said, yeah, me too. I don't really want to regurgitate all the negative things I have, because I just feel like that's going to bring more of it in my life. And I was like, okay, well then, let's talk about something else. That is an intentional conversation right there. That takes high awareness, high intentionality to be able to do that. And, one of the questions we get asked all the time is just how to not get enrolled and how to shift people into a positive mindset. It's going to feel a bit uncomfortable at first, but it's a skill that if you practice over time, it will get a lot easier. It just will, but it requires a choice, conditioning, and a commitment. I always say the 3 C's. So, choosing, committing, and conditioning your mind. You will over time just become this person.
It's something that we shared about 2 or 3 weeks ago, because we were talking about, this decision that you made to move. I mean, first of all, the decision to move to the United States was, I'm just so amazed when people do that, because I think that's an incredible step forward. But then you made the decision to be in the United States, in the place where you wanted to be. And I think we mentioned this because a lot of people go on vacation to spend a week or 2 in the place where they love to be, and then spend the other 51 weeks or 50 weeks in the place they don't want to be. And I think that's a great metaphor for life in general. If you're not where you want to be in any area of your life, marriage, parenting, career, it doesn't matter. You do have the power to change that. It takes courage. I understand that. But sometimes just getting involved in these positivity practices, you will become magnetized to your true destiny, because I believe destiny is looking for you just like you're looking for it. So if you'll start practicing positivity, you'll draw those very, very positive places, people, resources, opportunities to your life.
If you loved this episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave us a review, and head over to incurablepositivity.com, where you can get access to lots more resources, the community, and myself and Angie, where we go live with book club and talk about everything positivity. We love you, we appreciate all of you, and until next time, stay positive.